I'm now giving the floor directly to the advisory board for the final recommendations. I don't know who's presenting on behalf of the advisory board.
Eglantine, they choose me, Hans, to do that.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
please. Yes, you
So
can share your screen.
first, some congratulations to the organization. Eglantine and colleagues did a perfect job in organizing this meeting with people essentially all over the world. And you did very well. Thanks for that. And the second one is that if you start with the recommendations, we did that by work package, and I would like to start with work package 1. And work package 1 also deserves congratulations because they did a perfect job in identification and description of the main and the key traits in all those products. And that is a very solid basis to make progress in the project and even beyond this project.
Sorry, Hans, are you sharing your screen?
I'm not sharing the screen. I do it in words and not in a presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Recommendations for work package 1 and challenges. The key challenge, and it has been discussed already a few times the last half hour, is the creation of quantitative product profiles and their use and integration in the other work packages, inbreeding, and in particular at work package 5, where they bring the traits under attention of the users and end users. But it's an integrated project and process that need to be supported by all the work packages. And there is it's a huge challenge. I gave yesterday some advices, and you can always count on me for further advices. So feel welcome. We have discussed, and there were questions, how to accomplish this goal. And we believe as an advisory board that consumer preference mapping and development of methodology in that area would be very beneficial to make quantitative product profiles with traits and their expression levels. And that may not be feasible in this project anymore, but can be considered as a logical follow-up. There is, of course, different segments. There is gender issues, but product profiles can, in principle, cover all those requirements, all those needs. And that is a new look at profiles and their use. I would like to move to work package 2 now. And there we observe that sensorial QDA type activities are nicely on track and that they deliver very valuable information. There is a lot on the plate, and there's a lot of SOPs to be developed or in development. And we have a clear recommendation there. And it was already a sort of also emphasized by Bonan just a moment ago. There is a clear need for focus. Stick to the traits that are defined by work package 1. And the very nice overview on the boiled products by Thierry show that color, starch, cell walls, and texture are the key traits to work on. And so focus on those and don't waste too much time on alternative steps that are not a priority. And because you have to focus to reach your targets. And it's, we repeat it again, and this is not the first time, please focus on those targets and develop efficient traits at high throughput for those key traits identified by work package 1. Then we can make the step to work package 3. And there we also have some good advices, I hope. And the first advice is, please, if you do any measurement with a reference protocol, wet chemistry, texture analysis, please always take spectra in connection to that. And if you take spectra from those samples, do that in a representative way that you cover the variance of your samples by spectral information and that you can associate spectra to sensorial traits. There is a very high opportunity developing NIRS calibrations for sensory data straight away. And they are very effective. And I can tell you, we have examples that they are indeed very effective and that they are very useful. And it prevents you from a lot of hassle in other sample preparations because you can go straight from spectra to sensorial traits. And at the same time, we have observed that there are still many spectra collected on prepared foods. We have a clear recommendation. Please stop on taking spectra on processed food. Go to raw and predict the traits from raw spectra. It's much more efficient. You don't lose enormous time in sample preparation, and you have much better instruments to do measurements of prepared foods than taking a spectra and predict those measurements. So, a clear recommendation, go for raw spectra. Another one is validation and merging of data sets. Yeah, you can take a lot of information from other spectra, raw spectra from different product profiles for the same crop, and you can even dream of using calibrations on dry matter and other traits over crops. Take that as a challenge and develop those consolidated, merged data sets that give you synergy and much more speed and critical mass. And then the last one in this work packages, there is quite some suggestions to use artificial intelligence and deep learning. We as an advisory board believe that if you cannot see the information from the current methods with infrared analysis using PLS and let's say well-developed methods, then there's probably no additional value in spending a lot of time in deep learning and artificial intelligence because information that is not in spectra cannot be obtained from the spectra. And so stick to the proven methods is the recommendation from our side. Then I would like to give some recommendations for work package 4 and 5. We feel as a board that there is a lot of expectations coming from the breeding teams and work package 5 teams as regarding to the application of high throughput tools for screenings of traits. And probably are those expectations not fully realistic. The project probably needs a period of about 5 years to deliver those tools because there is a trajectory for development of tools, their upscaling and their validation. And probably it's realistic that the tools start to arrive at the end of this project. It's also a matter of communication of the expectations. So we clearly advise the other work packages involved in the development of those tools to have clear communication lines about those expectations, that you are all on the same page with respect to what can be expected and by which timelines. What the role for work package 4 and 5 at this moment, we believe, is that you could probably play a bigger role in providing the right samples in the right ranges and the right qualities to the other work packages, especially 2 and 3, to speed up the development of robust protocols and calibrations that in the end would assist you in your selection processes. There is a lot of challenges ahead, and most of those challenges should be addressed by close collaboration between all work packages. And we, as an advisory board, wish you all good luck in that. And of course, we are available to assist you where needed and where applicable. Thanks for an excellent year of results, and thanks for all those presentations. You did very well, and I hope you all have a very fruitful year in period 4. And I hope to meet you in about a small year from now in a new review. And in between, if you feel that you need me for further discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans. I think we have some questions before you leave because you have another meeting, but we have 10 minutes question for all the advisory board. Thank you very much for this recommendation. We take notes and we will try to apply it for the next period. If you want to ask some question to the advisory board, is the moment. Please raise your hand and we will give you the floor. Nobody, no question?
There's a question for me.
Okay, I don't see your hand. Halamu.
Yes. Thank you very much, the Board of Trustees, for this valuable advice. I want to ask, especially Hans, what do you see or what do you advise us about HSI application in RTB4 project?
I missed a part of your question, Emmanuel. Could you repeat it?
Yeah, what I'm saying is application of high spectral imaging analysis application in RTB foods. What can you advise us, and what sort of help do you think you can render? We discussed in the Q&A forum a little bit, but in your summary of advice given to us, you didn't mention it specifically. So that's why I'm asking that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question. We have hyperspectral experiences. For us, hyperspectral imaging of certain traits is the biggest contribution to selection, especially in those crops where dry matter distribution plays an important role in the quality and in the processing quality. And I have the clear recommendation that you should upscale cross-sectional scannings in all those root crops, and probably also all 5 RTB crops, and get an image analysis, hyperspectral image analysis software, operational, that is giving you possibilities to quantify those traits at the typical positions in the tube that you would like to have data from. And you would see probably that in most of the crops, potato, sweet potato, yam, and cassave, the distribution patterns tell you a lot about the processability and quality traits of those crops. And it's a very fast way because you don't have to do sampling anymore, like you often do when you go to assays on subparts of those tissues. And to give you an example, we run with our hyperspectral camera about 30,000 samples a year.
Thank you, Hans. There is a question from Aurélie Bischoff on the sensory panel related to the scan of the raw roots. Aurélie.
Oh, hello, Hans. This is Aurélie. So I'm from NRI. I work with Laura. I've been involved in the project quite recently, so I wanted to understand a little bit how do you link the different, the sensory testing with the physical chemical characteristics when you talk about using raw material, because the raw material cannot be eaten. So how do you overcome that? And I mean, it's all about the challenge of processing and linkages between the different aspects. So sensory processing, hedonic testing, and physical-chemical characteristics?
The linking near spectra to sensorial data is as simple as, and it's not really simple, is taking spectra from raw tissues. In some cases, we go to freeze-dried raw tissues, and then indeed just link them straight to sensorial profiles and scores obtained by a trained panel for the attributes. And then you will notice very high correlations, associations between raw spectra, spectra raw material, and the sensorial traits after a certain preparation method, like frying, cooking, steaming, or meshing.
So you have not. So it's the correlation. So you're linking raw product analyzed by NIRS, for instance, to processed product analyzed by sensor evaluation.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this works in any kind of processing, because if you work with simple processes, things like maybe boiling, that might be the case. But if you work with more complex processing, is it still, like, for instance, Gary making, would this still work?
We see it for steaming, cooking, and for frying.
Okay.
In my crop.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question for Deborah, because you were talking about the link between Work Package 1 and the other work package, and you said that Work Package 1 need to be supported by all the work package. Deborah.
Yes, I think that the Work Package 1, as Hans has said, and we all felt on the advisory board, has done a really good job and has presented this methodology, but that it wasn't clear to what extent the members in the other work packages were fully aware of what had been completed and knew how to use that information. So something that helps the groups continue that conversation over the next 2 years would be really helpful. And I don't have any particular suggestion right now, but I think that there are ways that the project could facilitate that.
Okay, thank you. Raise your hand if you want to discuss with the board. I have one question for Pierre. Pierre, you were saying yesterday that NIRS is not universal, and maybe it will be very difficult to predict some textural traits. Can we have more guidance on that? Because we were all thinking that we will predict texture of the product.
Yeah, looking at the data I got, the different databases I have the opportunity to look this week, that's sure that textual parameters are quite difficult to measure. It seems that all the correlation are very weak, almost. There is some data from Thomas about RVE, which are intermediate and perhaps promising, but many of them are not good enough. That's the problem. So that's my hope. My hope is to get more sensory data, and as Hans said, to jump these intermediate determination and go directly to sensory and have something. We did also some work during my career about sensory analysis, especially in wine by FTIR, and we got something. And that's perhaps an hope to get this. But as Hans mentioned, that's to get access to the samples, and it's difficult to make 100 of samples by sensory analysis. But if we can group the sensory and standardize enough to have the same data from different centers, we can do something, I think. At least it was to try. I don't know if I answer your question, Dominique.
Yes. For the other work package 4, we were telling that the breeding team need to select very key and write sample to provide to Work Package 2 and Work Package 3. And maybe we need to work more about this proof of concept. We don't have talked much about parietal compounds and starch, role of parietal compound and starch in the physicochemical property of the product. But maybe we need to try to, with the breeder, to select a set of clone for this kind of analysis. We develop pectin measurement now, but are we in the good way to find something? Maybe Hans have this experience for potato about the parietal compounds and the pectin methylation and the composition of pectin.
Dominique, I can give my final answer because I take this also an opportunity to say goodbye to all of you because I have to leave for another meeting. I can tell you that in potato we have not only the proof principle, but an extensive data set where the relationship exists between monomeric composition of isolated cell walls and FTIR spectra of those isolated cell walls with all texture traits in potato at this moment. And then there is a huge genetic variance of cell wall composition in total content and in relative fractions of all the different monomeric sugars and their relationship to texture of steamed and fried potatoes. And so I believe that all attention you give to cell wall composition of those RTB crops, that you will find similar relationships in most crops that you study. And the first indications of your activities in that field suggest that there's value in cell wall composition, monomeric, pectins, etc.
Thank you, Hans. Maybe Bruce, you want to add some words from the advisory committee?
Yeah, I say now goodbye to everybody and I'm leaving. So it's not because...
Thank you very much for your contribution. You were on all the presentation and all the QDA, and your contribution is really great. Thank you very much.
And I will forward what I told you in words as a file.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Bruce, do you have some word from the advisory committee?
Dominique, Bruce left already.
Bruce left. Julie?
Hi, everyone. No, I'm really happy to speak to you today. It was not evident because I'm coming from holidays, but I'm really happy to participate to the session we have with the committee today. So I'm very happy, and thanks for the job you have done.
Thank you for your time. Claire, do you have some words from the advisory committee?
Thank you, Dominique, for the invitation to be part of this committee. I've appreciated the opportunity, a lot of learning on my part again this year. One point that we discussed didn't come out in Hans's presentation here was the benefits of especially Work Package 1 linking more to the excellence in breeding platform of CGIAR and their efforts to develop standards for product profiles. And Hans, in fact, agreed that he would sort of be a linkage and make contact with the excellence in breeding platform to pursue some of that collaboration. So thanks again to everybody. I've enjoyed this year's annual review again.
Thank you very much. I think it's time to close this session and to ask Jim to give some recommendation also from the Gate Foundation before closing the session. Jim, you are there?
Yes, I'm here, Dominique. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, Dominique and Eglantine, thanks for organizing a very complex but good meeting. I think it went very well, given that it's a remote meeting. And also thanks to the PMU and all the team for all the work that was done in this difficult year of COVID. I think to see the progress was really encouraging. We understand the challenges everybody faced and really appreciate it. Just a few things that I would like to say. First of all, the time is relatively short as you're in your last 2 years. And so what you heard from the advisory committee on the need to prioritize and focus and really look at those key traits identified by work package 1 is advice that we would also back up. But coming to that point of time, we think that with CG reform, the one CGIAR, that although RTB Foods may not continue as a discrete project, we hope that all the collaborations initiated during RTB Foods would continue into the next phase of 1CG and the partnerships with NARS, that companies have already moved to having breeding be very much a multiple disciplinary activity. Not just the traditional disciplines of pathology and agronomy, et cetera, but the need to bring in many disciplines, including the social science to get product profiles right, the food science and technology to be able to deliver that, big data tools, different types of engineering and optimizing specialists, that the breeding is much bigger than breeders. And we really hope that vision is captured by the EIB, which we think it is being captured, and that the future is bright, and that the change will encourage more donors to maybe be more confident in the CG, and that strengthening of the CG will lead to strengthening of finances. So very few comments. I appreciate all that's been done. In some cases, it's time to move beyond the old traits to those traits identified by work package 1. And thank you, Bela, for the encouragement to not only be aware of gender, but to seek more engagement with producers and end users, and let more voices be engaged in the process, because the breeding process certainly needs more voices and more equitable distribution of voices. And so breeders need to learn to be good listeners and people who bring in and engage, as well as who know and push and dictate. So thank you all. This is really a key project for the success of RTB breeding. And I encourage you in the year to come, and I thank you for all that you have done. So thank you, Dominique, and thank you, team.